Hello, and welcome to another episode of Peter Herman Adventures. Today I'm going to explain the steelhead fishing regulations in British Columbia. I posted a steelhead fishing basics video recently and I touched on the regulations a little bit, but from the comments I realized that I think that topic needs a little bit more detailed attention. So this video is for those people that are just starting out in steelhead fishing and need the regulations explained a little bit more in detail. I'm not a government employee or a conservation officer, so it's ultimately your responsibility to read and understand the regulations, but I'm going to hit some of the important stuff and explain it a little bit. I will start with the very basic stuff. I'm assuming you don't know anything about steelhead fishing if you're searching for this video and viewing it. So I'm going to start out with, what is a steelhead? Well, a steelhead is a seagoing rainbow trout, and they're found in most coastal rivers in British Columbia and Washington and Oregon. This video is about the fishing regulations in British Columbia. In waters where steelhead are found in British Columbia, any rainbow trout over 50 centimeters in length is considered a steelhead trout. Now, it is possible for a steelhead, for a regular rainbow trout to stay in the river and grow to that size, but it's exceedingly rare. Most rainbow trout that stay in the river and become resident rainbow trout grow up to be maybe 40 centimeters or so if they get to live a nice long life. It's the seagoing ones that are over 50 centimeters, and usually steelhead will actually be quite a bit bigger than that. They sort of start at maybe 65, 70 centimeters, and they can grow up to about 90 or 100 centimeters long. They can be quite a big fish. So as far as the regulations go though, anything over 50 centimeters is considered a steelhead and needs to be treated as such. If you're fishing for steelhead anywhere in British Columbia, you need to have a supplemental tag on your license. So it's a steelhead conservation stamp. Steelhead are under provincial jurisdiction, where salmon are under federal jurisdiction. So the rules are a bit different. For salmon in British Columbia, if you're not retaining any salmon, if you're fishing the river and you're not targeting salmon, or if you're fishing the river and you're not planning on keeping any salmon, you don't need a tag. That's not the case for steelhead. For steelhead, you need that supplemental tag just to fish the waters where they are found. There is a small gray area there where if you're not targeting steelhead at all, you can fish without a tag, but that's pretty hard to prove. Unless you're fishing a river like this with ultralight gear, a small little trout rod, and like 4 or 5 pound leader, it's pretty tough to say that you weren't targeting steelhead at all. I mean, after all, they are a trout. They eat exactly the same stuff as all the other trout and fish in the river. So if you're fishing a river in British Columbia at a time where steelhead are found in that river, you really should have that tag on your license, regardless of what you're targeting. It'll just save you having to argue with a conservation officer about what you were fishing for and what you weren't fishing for. So that was the most sort of controversial point that I brought up in my last video. I said if you're fishing this river at all, you need a tag, or any river in BC where steelhead are found. But it's not strictly speaking true. If you can prove that you are not targeting steelhead at all, then you don't need that tag to fish. But the steelhead tags, all that money goes to conservation, habitat enhancement, and it goes to maintaining fisheries infrastructure like docks, and it's money well spent. It isn't just a revenue grab by the government. That money really stays in BC and it stays in the fisheries, so it's $25 well spent, in my opinion. If you read through the regulations, you'll see that anywhere in British Columbia, only hatchery steelhead are open for retention. So you can catch and release wild steelhead, but if you want to keep one to eat, it has to be a hatchery fish, and it has to be immediately recorded on your license. So as soon as you catch that fish and kill it, you immediately should whip out your license and write that fish down in there. It's not something that can wait until you're back at your car. You can get ticketed just for not having it written down in your license immediately. I guess the other thing I should mention is how to distinguish a wild from a hatchery fish. And I'll just roll on a short little clip right now that shows it, rather than explaining it just verbally. Well, this fish has had a run-in with a seal. There's a little bit of a bite mark there. And mostly I wanted to show you guys how you can tell it's a hatchery fish. So the hatchery fish get this adipose fin right here. They get that cut off just before they're released. And that's how you tell it's not a wild fish, that the adipose fin is missing. Okay, so that covers the difference between a wild and hatchery fish. And that pretty much covers all the fishing regulations that are specific to steelhead fishing. I would just like to add that the wild steelhead are really quite precious. We want these fisheries to be sustainable for future generations, so handle them with the utmost care. A wild steelhead should never touch any rocks. Really, it should be tailed or landed in knee-deep water and released without handling it. And really, you shouldn't take them out of the water just for pictures and videos, unless it's maybe like a little brief 1 or 2 second lift. We really want those fish to spawn, and we want them to return to the ocean and spawn, return to spawn again. So those fish, really, I can't stress that enough. Treat them, baby them to the best of your ability. And good luck out there. Have a great season hunting unicorns, because they're about equally as rare as that mythical beast. Thanks for watching. See you next time.